Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch is an immigration attorney, one of our go-to individuals when it comes to immigration cases, and of course front and center, that 29-year-old El Salvador resident who remains in the prison in El Salvador after having lived in the U.S. for about a decade. Kate, welcome back to the briefing. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Hi, good afternoon. Happy to be here.
I want to share with you what the wife of Kilmar Abrego Garcia said yesterday outside a federal courthouse in Greenbelt, Maryland.
Kilmar needs to come home, and it's time we see how exact this will be fulfilled. Enough is enough. My family can't be robbed from another day without seeing Kilmar. This administration has already taken so much from my children's, from Kilmar's mother, brother, sisters, and me.
And clearly this is a debate that the White House wants, Kate, now that the administration officially being held in criminal contempt. What are the next steps for the family, for this individual, and what do you think we'll hear from the administration moving forward?
Well, it's a lot happening all at once and very quickly, of course. The Supreme Court issued their unanimous decision last week ordering the administration to facilitate his return, and then that, of course, did not occur. And then the meeting with President Bukele from El Salvador happened at the White House, where he said bringing him back would be smuggling a terrorist into the United States. I mean, that press conference was quite a circus, actually, when they mischaracterized the Supreme Court decision. Now the lower courts are weighing in again, holding them in contempt. And so, senators are going down to El Salvador to see if he's even alive and well, and perhaps if they can bring him back. And I think all eyes are on this battle that is taking shape between the executive and the judiciary. This is the constitutional crisis that everybody's been watching for, and it is absolutely this moment with this case coming to a head.
And the president telling reporters that he won that ruling 9-0. I'm not sure what he was reading because, to your point, the Supreme Court did say you need to facilitate, although the court did acknowledge that the president, the administration, does have jurisdiction over foreign policy. What's the president talking about?
I mean, I was shocked. When I first read the Supreme Court decision, I was flooded with relief that, okay, they're ordering the administration to bring this man home. And then the next morning after that decision, I saw that the White House had claimed this as a win. And I thought, okay, the Supreme Court was just vague enough that the Trump administration is going to run with this, question of what it means to effectuate the return or not. But then at the press conference with Bukele, when Stephen Miller just claimed this as an outright victory for the Trump administration, it was such a laughable mischaracterization of the Supreme Court decision that it was really shocking for me, and I think everybody else watching who had read the decision, that they were even, with a straight face attempting to make this argument that this was a win for them. And then, Bukele is saying that he can't bring Abrego Garcia back when the highest court of the land has ordered the government to facilitate his return. I mean, it's baffling that they, are attempting to say that they don't need to bring him back. And that's, of course, what Judge Boasberg is talking about with the criminal contempt. And it's really coming to a head now. I mean, holding the administration in contempt is the teeth that the court has. And so that, will likely go back up the line, and then we'll see, number one, if this poor guy, is alive, is able to return, and then number two, if our, checks and balances and our democracy is alive. That's also a question for us right now.
And Kate, a lot of attention on Mahmoud Khalil, who is the Columbia University graduate student, but there's a second undergraduate student, also from Columbia University. He is a green card holder, a legal permanent resident of the United States. He has been here for the last 10 years. He is Palestinian from the West Bank. He was in Vermont believing that he was going to have his naturalization interview instead picked up by ICE for his remarks that were pro-Palestinian, perhaps anti-Israel, and so now he is being held in detention. Again, my question, what's going on here?
Well, I think what happened was with Khalil, the administration charged him as deportable, even though, just like Kadawi, there's, green card holder, no criminal history whatsoever. And the ground of deportability that the government threw out against Khalil was this sort of arcane ground from the 50s that says that if the Secretary of State has a reason to suspect that this person's activities will result in adverse foreign policy consequences in the United States, then they can find this person to be deportable. And Khalil's was somewhat of a test case, and unfortunately an immigration judge upheld that ground of deportability against Khalil, and presumably that's what they'll be applying to Kadawi as well. Because again, a green card holder going to his citizenship interview, presumably zero criminal history whatsoever, and so they're going to base all of this on his political activities, which of course all of us recognize as free speech. Someone going to a protest is free speech, and yet it worked in the case of Khalil, and so they're going to start rolling this out against other protesters, and this is different from the student visa holders. That's a whole other thing. But the green card holders, this is a lifetime protected status. You don't typically lose a green card unless you commit some sort of pretty serious crime.
And that student, again, his name is Madawi. So let me just ask you about the rights that you have as a green card holder. Again, he is from the West Bank. He is Palestinian, but he's also a legal U.S. resident. It seems like we're heading towards a very, very slippery slope about what rights individuals have who come to this country expressing their point of view. In this case, as far as we know, doing so peacefully, but because of what he has posted or said or done, now he's facing deportation.
That's right. And I think as much, as a lawyer, I always want to tell people there is the rule of law and everybody's covered with constitutional protections against free speech and search and seizure and the right to remain silent. And the reality of the situation is that what we are seeing is a dismantling of constitutional protections for immigrants. And so the way to apply that information, is everybody has to make an individualized decision about what they do, but it certainly does appear that immigrants, including green card holders, are going to be impacted based on their activities, their protests, and what they put online and on social media.
Well, what you just said a moment ago should send a chill down the spine of all of us as we look at the Constitution, the rule of law. And yes, if you're a thug, if you're a criminal, get out of here. But in this case, the rights you have to simply express your point of view as long as you do it peacefully, Kate.
Yes, and I think the other thing that's really scary as we're watching all of this is that, the Trump administration has outright said, we'll be happy to send U.S. citizens to El Salvador. And what about U.S. citizens who have engaged in protests? Are they on the, send them to CCOT list as well? That's on the table. And so that's another reason why this case of Abrego Garcia and how all of this is playing out in the federal courts is so important, not just for these individual people, but for all of us in this country.
Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, one of our go-to people in immigration attorney. Hey, Kate, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your